Aloha and welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. I'm your adventure guide, Bear Woznick, coming to you from Waikiki Beach, right next to St. Augustine's by the Sea Catholic Church. In fact, our studio is just above the altar, in the church that's next door to us. So we're here in Waikiki Beach. Beautiful time of year here. It's kind of calm because we've had all of our summer guests have left and the winter hawks haven't quite arrived yet. And the ocean is just as calm as can be out in front of my house, although I know on the North Shore it's been pumping about 20, 30 feet up there. So beautiful day here in Waikiki. We have someone joining us today, Bud Macfarlane. We're going to be going deep with him. He's a man that I guess some people that when you meet them, they just really stand out to you. There's a depth there. And so we're going to be visiting with Bud Macfarlane about his a pilgrimage of walking and praying across the United States. We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick Adventure.
Welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. Kickstart that engine and roll thunder with the pack. Explore the grittiness of manly spirituality. Gain traction in the virtues. Zoop up your spiritual engine by turning adversity into adventure. Now here's Bear Woznick. Let's ride.
Aloha, welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. I remember when I was I guess I was about maybe 29 or so. I was working for a big company, and we would take coffee breaks together, and we'd have lunch breaks, coffee breaks, same group of guys from the same department, and I found them talking disrespectfully about women, and so I stopped going to those. As I was going through that process and praying about that, I just heard the Lord as clear as day say to me, "You're my walking man. Go walk." And since that time, I've walked. And I would spend my break times and my lunch times walking and just talking to the Lord. And since that time, here in Waikiki, I've been on about 50 miles a week, just walking in the sand and praying. And so there's just something about walking. I know you think of St. Paul, you think of Barnabas, Silas, even Timothy, all the apostles walking those long walks along the Roman highways. Well, we have someone here with us, a guest today who knows a little bit about walking. We have Bud Macfarlane with us from CatholicCity.com. Bud Macfarlane, welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. Should I paint a story? I've never had anybody have such an incredibly fake background.
It's actually real.
It actually looks like you're actually in a rocking chair next to a
so
sparkling
real,
fire.
it looks fake.
Well, no, now real is fake, right? Oh, he's not very professional. He has a real background. but you got the same candle that Father Wade Menezes was burning when I interviewed him a couple of hours ago. So we got the candles burning. Hey, but Bud, before we get started, I want to talk about this series of books. The one, Pierced by a Sword, I think is the first one. And I'm just getting into it. I mean, I've had these books in my hands for a long time, and then I kind of lost track of them. I had to buy a whole new set of them. But I'm just getting into it, and it's kind of a cross between, the way I can tell, it's kind of like a cross between the Screw Tape Letters and it looks like it's going to be a book of intrigue. Right now, you're just getting all the characters out. But it's a novel where you see not just the people, but you see the spiritual forces at work have a role in the book too, so they're pretty. And people love these books. First one is called Pierced by a Sword. And what are the other books? And how did these come about?
Well, I wrote that book in 1995. It's probably been the most popular Catholic novel since, with 1 million or more readers. I have two other novels. One's called Conceive Without Sin. The other is called House of Gold. They're kind of sequel. One's a sequel to the other. Pierced by a Sword we'll take the whole hour if I explain the story behind that.
Yeah, don't do it because I'm still reading it. It's about to get started. It's like
it's essentially like catharsis. My father is a very famous speaker on the subject of Marian apparitions, and I became
like Professor Wheat in the book.
Yeah, like Professor Wheat. And my father's still around. He's 92. He's a genius. And he set out, inspired directly by Our Lady, to become the world's greatest expert, and he was already an entertainer growing up. He was a comedian, an impersonator, and he could hold an audience in his hands. And so I decided to, as a Sunday, like something to do on Sunday when you're not supposed to work for fun, to just start writing character sketches. And I'm probably halfway through the novel before I realized I was writing a novel. So that's why it starts one character after another.
It does.
Yeah,
You're introduced to these, and you go, he's building up to something.
And they're all over the place. And then I wish I could say I plotted it out. It's a fictional account of the times we're living in, essentially, without giving anything away to you or any potential readers, of what it might be like to live through the end time, the Marian era, where we end up at a period of peace. That's why it's cathartic. At the end, you get there. But you have to go through the tribulations and all the things that go along with that. But it's not prophecy. It's just me imagining it. But even then, when I write, I just see what's happening and write it down. I don't even feel
it's very rich, though.
I'm the author.
And it's very, and the theology is there. And every now and then you'll throw in an Aquinas quote. But the theology of the fact that there's a nun there that he knew who passed away that really had a fondness for him and is interceding for him, and you see the demons, behind the veil, and you see all these different parts coming together. So I'm really looking forward to reading. I'm bringing the whole all 3 books with me sailing. So while I'm gone for a couple of months, I'll get through all those books. I got to write my own though. You're going to get me distracted.
Yeah, I hope you lose a lot of sleep. That's the ultimate compliment, and they're available even for free. If anyone goes to the Mary Foundation website, just type in Mary Foundation, where everyone's heard of CatholicCity.com or Catholicity. Just type free Catholic novel or Catholic novel and Bud, and you'll end up there if you search.
It's a great read. You're very, there's some reading you just know it just flows, and you're into the story, and there's a kind of there's certain something, where it brings you right into what's happening, but your words flow so easily that you don't get bottled up, you don't get kind of locked up in the lack of the poetic sort of flow of the book too. So, but that's not why we have you here. By the way, I want to write a Western novel. I've got 2 more books to write, and then my next one I want it to be a Western novel. Yeah,
who's my favorite?
Louis L'Amour.
Louis L'Amour. Oh yeah.
Do you know that I have all 105 of his volumes here?
I am not surprised.
In my TV show. Yeah, my TV show Long Ride Home. Oh, look at that! I just happened to pick that volume out of my 105 books here. My TV show Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. I didn't realize I stole it from the title of one of his books until I was reshuffling my books and I go, wait a minute. But yeah, I got to write to his wife. I didn't need permission to use his quotes, but I used his quotes in my last book, 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone? So you love Louis L'Amour too.
I do. My favorite is not actually a Western. It's called The Last of the Breed, where an American Indian tracker goes into Russia. It's just one of the great. They're all great. You can't put them down.
People don't understand them, and of course the Sacketts. I think the Sacketts go back. Eventually, it goes back to the time of knights or something. It goes back to Europe instead of starting in the Old West. They kind of have some back things. But yeah, I want to write. I've always wanted to write a Western novel, but it'll be, like with your books. There's a theme to them that gets you. It's a way of drawing people more deeply into the deepest, teachings. But you do it in a way that just draws them in. So I've started to write out the character sketches.
Yeah, I don't write to teach. The teaching comes. I write to get people to read the next word. I do that by writing something that I want to read. It's not really complicated.
It's natural.
And I'm an average person. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, but it's natural. It has to be presented in a natural way. I'm going to use the story of a widow and her teenage son, her young son, and there's so many storylines that you can use. But I'm going to have the hero of the show take a liking to this young man and kind of teach him some ways, and that's how I'll bring in some, mostly on the cardinal virtues. And the Louis L'Amour was big on the cardinal virtues. He just didn't call them that. Anyway,
that's good. Yeah, he is lesson in proper Christian virtuous manliness.
True.
And boys love it because it teaches them how to be men, and men love it because his characters, his lead character, always have a flaw,
Right.
but they're always good ultimately. And the drama is to find out how they're going to be good. Are they going to overcome their flaw?
Yeah, I want Louis L'Amour westerns to become popular again. I connected a friend of mine, the Catholic cowboy priest in Wyoming, Father Bryce Lundgren, with my publisher, Sophia, Charlie over there, Charlie McKinney. They published a book by him, but he and his brother love Louis L'Amour westerns. He said, the thing is, all the guys in the books, they were very respectful of women. And his brother was mentioning how in Gunsmoke, for example, not a Louis L'Amour western, but in Gunsmoke, Matt Dillon was a celibate. You never saw him, disrespect women in any way. But being a celibate gave him a lot of freedom to do what had to be done. And so Father Bryce has a particular liking to that character, Matt Dillon. We're talking about cowboy books and everything else, but do you remember that one of his books, Louis L'Amour, was The Education of a Wandering Man?
I haven't read that.
Okay, well, that's the story of his life. And so when we get back, there's no one I know that have wandered around more than you. I don't know how many thousands of miles you walked when you walked, I think, 4 different directions across the United States to form a cross. And we're going to talk about that great walk when we come back. We're talking with Bud Macfarlane. Bud, where can they find you? The best place to find you
is at Catholicity.com or MaryFoundation.com.
We'll be right back.
Founder, yeah.
You're the founder. You're the founder of the Mary Foundation.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I know, Bud. Everyone, many times on different places, your name comes up. People have a great fondness for you and respect for you. We'll be right back with the Bear Woznick Adventure. SchoolofManliness.com is a place for men of grit and grace to join together, to inspire, to encourage, and to challenge each other to grow in manly virtue. Members receive morning man meditations, a monthly curriculum that is rich with audio, video, and written content, and a trail guide to help you map out your new trajectory. Many of our members lead their sons through this same curriculum. Your membership gives you access to both the Man Cave, which is our non-Facebook type community, and the School of Manliness at schoolofmanliness.com. Become a member at schoolofmanliness.com. Deep Adventure Ministries is grateful to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting the Bear Woznick Adventure on EWTN. Notre Dame Federal Credit Union provides car loans, mortgages, SBA loans, and depository accounts nationwide, as well as 24-hour support. Go to deepadventure.com to find their link, or go to NotreDameFCU.com. Mahalo to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for making the Bear Woznick Adventure possible. That they were born with, that each man individually is factory loaded with by God. Paul said, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, do all things in love." Finally, here is a book that talks with men the way men talk with each other. Just plain old straight shooting. By the way, Mama Bears, this is your chance to get this message to your men. Go to schoolofmanliness.com or anywhere books are sold. 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone?
This is a warning. The Bear Woznick Adventure is dangerous. The radical change Bear challenges you to is not for wimps. Change this station now to a soft rock station before it's too late. You've been warned. Now, here is Bear Woznick.
Aloha, welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. We want to invite you to go to... Bud Macfarlane's here with us too, by the way. We're going to be talking story with him about a big walk he took recently across the United States. But I want to remind you to go to our website, schoolofmanliness.com. We have a store there, and you can find my latest book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? You can get it at EWTN catalog. You can get it, of course, at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, whatever you want to buy books. If you go to our website, we'll be able to send you an autographed copy. But 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Has been a book that's been ranked as high as number 5 amongst Christian books for men. And it speaks to men the way like Bud and I are speaking to each other. We're just talking as two brothers, down-to-earth conversation, real conversation. But we talk about the different areas of a man's life that God's calling him to go deeper in, the virtue that God's calling men to walk in. One of my favorite chapters is praying the most dangerous prayer of all. It seems to be most people really love that chapter the most too. But the book is 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? And the women who are listening, get this for the men in your life, because they probably won't buy it. You got to buy it for them. We're talking with Bud Macfarlane. He's the author of a series of books, the first of which is Pierced by a Sword. But we're not even talking about that. This is a novel, and it's not the biggest print, and it's 600 pages long. But tell us about the inspiration for this walk. Tell us about the walk and the inspiration for it.
Sure. I'll start with the facts of what the walk was, and then tell the intriguing story. First of all, the walk was a hidden work of reparation. It's called Operation True Cross, and it's an ongoing prayer movement with at least 250,000 people participating.
Wow.
The walk itself was reparation to precede the Eucharistic procession, which I was involved with along with my partner in crime, Father John Anthony Boughton. He's the Superior General of the CFRs, the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. And just go to the poorest places in Nicaragua or the United States and you'll find them. So we started from 4 points, 4 Marian shrines, one in northern Wisconsin, Our Lady of Champion, Our Lady of Good Help, from Washington, D.C., the National Basilica, from St. Augustine, where the First Catholic Church is, just south of Jacksonville, Florida, and from Our Lady of Peace in basically Fresno, California. That was 24-mile leg in and of itself. We called them beams. We carried with us a relic of the True Cross. So it was unprecedented that this had never been done in any country in history, this act of reparation. It took 8.5 months. It was me and one other man, usually 3 or 4 weeks at a time, usually younger men. I'm 62, I was 60 at the time. I did a lot of training. I was an athlete growing up, but without getting into that, we walked 7 days a week from sunrise to sunset. It came out to about 18 to 20 miles each per day. And I did all 4 legs. So I walked on every leg, starting in Wisconsin in late 2022, right through May of 2023. It took 8.5 months, and it was very difficult. So that was the idea. And when I get to sort of the origin story, your listeners will understand. We had with us first thousands, then tens of thousands, and then hundreds of thousands of people praying, fasting, in particular offering the daily prayers to save America, which is a little book. It takes 12 minutes a day, which consists of the Divine Mercy Chaplet, which many people already pray, a prayer called the Mantle of Mary prayer, asking for Mary's mantle to protect America, and then most importantly, Father Rippiger's daily exorcism prayers for the laity. He's the most important exorcist, I believe, maybe in the history of the church, certainly in the last 1,000 years. And he recommends this, that you be in a state of grace. So this was aggressive spiritual warfare to go after the demons that have parked themselves over our nation, which is a Christian nation. They were able to do this because of what the Bible says: the sacrifice of the blood of the innocents, abortion, and everything else that goes along with that, certain sexual perversions that are notated in the Bible. And I would add, the blood of the innocent includes these crazy wars that our country has gotten into that have taken the lives of countless people in the Middle East and other parts of the world. This is innocent blood. So if you break your leg, you go to the emergency room. If you are actually clinically depressed, by all means seek counselors, professional help. If you are being attacked by Satan, you have to turn and fight. That's what this was about. But we fought the way Jesus fought, by picking up the cross as Syrenes, not as Jesus. We called ourselves Syrenes. And all told with me, there were about 11 other men. Took 12 men, one at a time with me. We slept in a van with wooden bunks and no running water, and it was freezing cold most of the time, to tell you the truth. When we hit California, we left California, they got record rain there for 3 straight weeks. So we walked over mountains through.
You went over the Sierra Nevadas then?
We went over the Sierra Nevadas. I think one of them, the top one there, topped out at 10,000 feet. Yeah, and the guy I was with hurt his Achilles, and he couldn't do any hills. So for like 3 days, I was going up and going down and going up, and then we'd hit a flat spot. And
I know a lot of those places. So like the Marion Shrine in Wisconsin, we rode our motorcycles through with Long Ride Home. I pedaled my bicycle once from the United States, from the Pacific to the coast to the Atlantic coast, from San Diego to St. Augustine, Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
Which is a special place. There were 186 martyrs there in the 1800s.
I think it's the first place Mass was said in the United States.
First Mass was offered there. The first Catholic church in the contiguous United States was built there in the 1540s, I believe.
And then I was raised, when I was a young kid, I was right near Fresno. I was in Madera, which is just, I think, 30 or 40 miles away. So I know that area too.
Sure, one of my favorite places in the world is that area south of San Francisco. So the origin story. So we did no social media. All of the promotion was word of mouth and people giving this little book, Daily Prayers to Save America, which people continue to pray. The men were called Syrenes, after Simon the Cyrene, who helped carry the cross. The women were called Veronicas, who prayed and accompanied Jesus as he went up for Calvary. And this was all in mind, in addition to trying to tick off the dragon so it would reach up, and expose the soft white underbelly so we could just hurl, 10,000 ballistic missiles into them and take them out. Now, the way this spiritual warfare works is God has all the power. His instrumentality for taking out demons, for binding and casting them, are the angels, right? We don't have the power to cast demons out, right? Only a priest using the power of God can do that as an exorcist. But in certain circumstances, I don't want to get into it. People get too obsessed with it.
You know what?
The point
I agree with you.
Attack. Yeah. Mm-hmm. To attack. Everyone's attitude is, everything is lost, right? Things have been going so bad for so many generations, and I just don't believe in that. Like you, I see so many conversions, so many changed lives over the last 40, 50 years. There's got to be 200 times more active, devout converts in my son's generation. He's in his 20s than there are when I was in my 20s. So this is Mary's nation. All of our bishops, starting with Bishop Carroll in 1791, and our own bishops in 1845, and confirmed by the Pope in 1846, it's consecrated to Mary as Immaculate Queen. She claimed all of North America, Guadalupe, in 1531. This is her nation. Her mantle is over it. And we can actually, I want to convert the worst people in this country through God's power, right? The worst of the worst. Most of them are ignorant, or have are under the influence of demonic forces. They don't even realize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus loves them and died for them as much as anyone else.
Oh, we got to take a break. We got to take a break, Bud.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking with Bud Macfarlane. Where can they find you, Bud?
At themaryfoundation.com or Catholic City, or just type Bud and novel into any search engine.
Yeah, you can find them on Chat GPT. You can find them on AI. You can take them on Wikipedia. We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick Adventure. Go to schoolofmanliness.com and subscribe to our weekly email to receive video YouTube links of the Bear Woznick radio show, as well as the Spirit of Adventure with Bear and Cindy TV show, which, by the way, is filmed in the tropics, as well as our manly evangelistic YouTube shorts. Go to schoolofmanliness.com.
Be the kind of man that when he gets out of bed in the morning, the devil says, "Oh no, he's up." Go to deepadventure.com and invite Bear to speak.
Aloha, welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. We want to invite you to go to our website, schoolofmanliness.com. You can join the Man Cave. We have a non-Facebook type community. It's private, and you can share with other men, be encouraged by other men. There's a scripture verse, I forget if it's 1 Corinthians 13:16, I think it is, and it says, act like men, be strong. No, it says be on the alert. Be strong,
Yes.
be strong, be on the alert, and then it says act like men. It doesn't say act like a man. It says act like men. And just like Bud Macfarlane, when he did his walk, he walked with brothers. You need brothers, and a good place to start is to come and join the Man Cave. We meet together about once a month for Zoom-type video meetups, and then we have a whole school of manliness, about 2.5 years worth of curriculum with audio and video and written content and self-assessment content and so many other things. And the coolest thing is dads can get their sons a login credentials too, so they can't join the Man Cave, but they can go through the School of Manliness with you. And if you join, then you get to go through the School of Manliness with all of us. So schoolofmanliness.com, we'd love to have you join. Our guest is Bud Macfarlane. He's a novelist. How crazy is that, to be a novelist? I'm reading his, for years I've been putting off reading this book, Pierced by a Sword. I had it, and then I moved, and then I couldn't find it, so I had to order a whole new set. But really interesting book because it talks about the reality of spiritual warfare. And Bud and his organization and some of his men have been on a mission to walk in the form of a cross across the United States, from one Marian apparition to another, as a form of spiritual warfare. So you're in Fresno, you're walking across the Sierras. What was it? How did you do physically?
I did okay, which was maybe the biggest miracle of it all. I was an athlete, and I was naturally gifted and pretty good at football, basketball, baseball. I never trained for something more than I trained for this. And even in the training, I don't have any ACLs. I'm 60 years old. And as I was walking, it became clear to me that before I was born, God lined up all my genetic past, my Scottish grandfathers and the Highlanders and my Italian forebears and everyone. So I would have just the right hip and knee and foot structure, because although 11 other men would walk me for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or a week or 2 months, I was the only one who never actually got hurt. In terms of, I got little minor injuries, but nothing stopped me from walking for 8.5 months, which was a kind of a big surprise. I came out stronger than when I started.
And how many miles was that you were telling me before we started the show?
A total of 4,500 miles. I told you before we started, the equivalent of walking from Honolulu to New York City in a cruciform shape with a relic of the True Cross, from sunrise to sunset, 7 days a week, all to the grotto at the University of Notre Dame, where I'm a graduate, to help take back that university too. And so I think my whole life I was set up to do this one particular thing, along with the other Cyrenes and all the Veronicas and all the hundreds of thousands of people who prayed, who found out about it by word of mouth, which was extraordinary. In this day and age where everything is promoted through social media. Not that I have anything against that, but this was a hidden act. Now, for the origin story, in 2020, Father John Anthony Boughton, who's the Superior General of the Franciscan Friars of the New, called me up and said, we got to do something for the country. This was before the 2020 election. And we went to the four corners of the contiguous United States. We went to the border in Washington State. This was in the middle of COVID with all the restrictions, to the tippy top eastern part of Maine, to Key West, and to the border in San Diego. And with other priests, we offered a special mass. We had to do it outdoors at times because all the churches were closed. We did it in a forest in Washington State, and we had a nice visit with the police we ended up praying for all their kids. And we buried 3 big blessed exercise blocks of salt under the ground. It'll be there basically until Jesus comes back, as a symbolic pinning of the mantle of Mary. The saints call it a land assignment. So the CFRs were invited into the early planning stages of the Eucharistic Congress. And Father Boughton called me up one day and said, we have this idea to have a Eucharistic procession in a cruciform across the United States. It could be from one side to the other. He said, I don't have the time to write up a summary for Bishop. His name keeps the bishop in charge of the Eucharistic Congress, and we're proposing, an unprecedented procession. This would be in early 2022. And right when they were starting it. And I said, well, what do you have? He said, well, I was praying and I saw the United States. I saw a compass form over it, form into a cross. What do you think that means? I said, we should do a procession, if the bishops are willing to do this, that forms a cross over the United States, where Jesus in his real presence meets in Indianapolis in July of 2024. So this was a couple of years before it all came. And it was not decided whether to have this procession or not, which was a massive logistical undertaking, which they pulled off beautifully. So the bishop read the summary, bought into the idea of forming a crucifix. At some point, I got spun out of the process. I wasn't actually involved with the procession except in these early planning stages. But the CFRs were. The 55 CFRs participated in retreats and Eucharistic adoration, all sorts
amazing.
of things.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. So they were really behind it. And then Father Boughton and I were sitting there going, well, what should we do next? And he said, I got nothing, you got nothing. But then between him and my son Xavier, we had this idea, well, you have to have Calvary before you can have the resurrection. And our country is in dire need. Millions and millions of Catholics know, not just Catholics, even non-believers know this country is in trouble.
Yes.
And they can't quite put their finger on it, but they feel this dark demonic cloud, which we talked about in the earlier segment. So I said, well, let's take the true cross and do it in a hidden way with no promotion, and just invite people to join us in the reparation. And that's what we did. And I have to say, I was astounded how many people joined us in these exorcism prayers, which I think have been answered mystically. As I was finishing the third beam of the crucifix, for all the way from California, we went in the winter. So we had to go on the border.
You are like the Donner
Arizona.
Party. You're like the Donner Party crossing this year.
Yeah. It was, I woke up in New Mexico in February and it was below zero.
Where in New Mexico?
We basically, it was us and the border guards for almost all of New Mexico, and then we headed a little bit north up into Las Cruces.
Yeah, I got to tell you, so my first child was born in Las Cruces.
Wow.
And
There's a good vibe in that city.
yeah, there's
I'll tell you, I've
the
never been there.
crosses. Yeah, the three crosses. Well, I'll tell you what. I was going through a real difficult time about 25 years ago, and I'd made a decision to leave the mainland and move to Hawaii. My mom and dad were here. He was a deacon in Molokai, and I got on a bicycle in San Diego, and I pedaled from San Diego over to Jacksonville. And I remember going through Las Cruces, and it seemed like something special should happen, and nothing really happened there. But it was kind of my saying goodbye to the mainland, and also going through a lot of healing because of a lot of pain I'd been going through. And but then years later, we did our TV show Long Ride Home, and we went from Jacksonville to San Diego. We did the reverse, and Tony and I rode into Las Cruces, and we get off our bikes to go fuel them up, and this guy gets out of this pickup truck and says, "Baron Tony, what are you doing in Las Cruces?" I guess he had been following us on some social media Tony had been posting, and it ended up being a real special moment because that man was studying to become a deacon, and we were able to really remember the special moment, my daughter being born there in Las Cruces. But yeah, it's that's called the high desert. It's cold. It's cold.
Oh yeah.
We're talking with Bud Macfarlane, who's an author of this beautiful series of books. The first one is Pierced by a Sword, and he's talking to us about this great walk they did across the United States in the form of a cross for intercessory prayer and spiritual warfare. We got one more segment we can get to the nitty-gritty of it. We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick Adventure. People love our EWTN TV show Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. Thanks to you, the show has won 4 different Tally Awards. And now, instead of waiting each week for the next episode to air, you can actually binge watch our show and even share it with your friends when you go to deepadventure.com and join the Mama Bears or the Man Cave. Along with all the other benefits, you get total access to all the seasons of our aired episodes, plus instant access to episodes that won't even air for several months. Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick, a great way to communicate the gospel in a gritty enough way that even tough men will stop and watch at deepadventure.com. Deep Adventure Ministries is grateful to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting the Bear Woznick Adventure on EWTN. Notre Dame Federal Credit Union provides car loans, mortgages, SBA loans, and depository accounts nationwide, as well as 24-hour support. Go to deepadventure.com to find their link, or go to NotreDameFCU.com. Mahalo to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for making the Bear Woznick Adventure possible.
Are you still listening? I thought we warned you to change to an easy listening station. Well, you asked for it. Here is more of the Bear Woznick Adventure.
Aloha and welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. We want to invite you to go to the Bear Woznick Spirit of Adventure YouTube channel and become a subscriber. We have great people like Bud Macfarlane. Our video version of the radio show goes up there, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel there, or you can go to our website, schoolofmanliness.com, and sign up for our new email, and we will email you the show every week, the YouTube version of the show. So, Bud, what was the spiritual warfare element of all of this? As you were walking, what did you experience? What was your...
Well, as Thomas Aquinas teaches, any institution or major endeavor gets a special angel. And since this was on a national level, I sense that Our Lady granted through the Sacred Heart of Jesus for this particular project got its own angel. I call it the Operation True Cross Angel. And, we put blessed salt, under the floors of the van. And we had people praying. And to tell you the truth, if you do Father Rippliger's 3 Angelus devotion, where you pray the angels 6 a.m. noon, a lot of people mistake for spiritual warfare as unnecessary. You let it in through sin. If you live a life free from mortal sin and essentially free from venial sin, and go to Mass on Sunday and go to frequent confession and have meditative prayer in your life. As you say, while you're walking, I do a lot of praying while I walk, and often on the ocean myself. So we have that in common. And I like how it feels to walk on the sand versus just on a sidewalk or something. We can basically eliminate the spiritual warfare. The Mary Foundation, our benefactors, fulfilling our mission to evangelize and sanctify the entire world, starting with the United States and North America, have distributed tens of millions of tools for evangelization, like the novels. We have booklets, we have all sorts of things. They can just go to the website, catholicity.com, and look at everything we offer. Most of it's for free or at cost, right? And that's part of it. That's the evangelization. Here's a tool as gifts you can give. The other part's sanctification, and it's very interesting. According to Father Rippiger, again, I have no personal teaching. I just teach what the church teaches or Aquinas teaches. In terms of spiritual warfare, I don't worry about it. The Mary Foundation is constantly attacked. There's problems. We got all the cars, everybody's cars got slashed or had problems with their wheels or whatever. I just take it as a good sign. But most of that,
that you're doing the right thing.
It's not enough. If you're consecrated to Mary and you're doing the right thing, you'll run into some barriers. But essentially, 90% of it you can just get rid of by not committing mortal sin.
But you know what,
and being in God's will. And to do that, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
To be in God's will, you need to love God. And that is the biggest problem, according to Father Rippiger. And people are soft. He says Americans are soft. This is the biggest gate people leave open to diabolical attack. And I know because I have left this gate open, but never again. No more until the day I die. I wish I knew it when I was in my 20s or 30s. It's, never too late. Right? If you're over 50 or 60 like me, wake up and pray. God is the cause, is the source, and the cause of love for him. You cannot make yourself love God. You can only love God by his grace and by his power. This is Catholic dogmatic teaching. It is inerrant. It is completely, perfectly true. You can use your will to prepare yourself to receive God's grace, called prevenient grace. So you wake, and the only way to do that is wake up and pray. Meditative prayer. People don't want to do this, and since your audience is men, because it's mortification to pray. We live in a fallen world. We want to be entertained and distracted, right? But a real man, like Jesus did, it says right in the gospel, before the apostle, he got up and went and prayed, and then came back, spoke with them, and then went out and preached and healed people. That was his day, right? I call it a simple, well-ordered life. You get up and you do meditative prayer. We have a tool called How to Pray by St. Francis de Sales, recommended by Father Rippiger. You wake up and you do prayer, and you do it as mortification. Now, sometimes there's consolation, sometimes there's not. It doesn't.
Right.
But unless you pray, you will not, and ask for, you will not receive the graces to love God. You do that, you can be in his will, and you don't have to worry about it. The devil is, as St. Bugs Bunny said, a maroon. Before we got started, you were saying to me, the scripture, it says that he's the fleeing devil, right?
Fleeing dragon.
Even though you could combine all the greatest human intellects, and it wouldn't be a P next to Lucifer's intellect, the guy's an idiot. Because
he's a maroon. Moron.
He's a maroon. He's going to lose. He's fighting a battle. He knows he's going to lose. And we're on the winning side. So we should go with confidence and attack, right?
Yes.
Not just protect or retreating all the time.
But we
had very little spiritual warfare, actual breakdown of the vehicle or crazy stuff happening. But every guy involved was so focused. There wasn't infighting. Wasn't all those little diabolical signs of relationships. I'm sorry, you had a question.
No, I was just going to say, I know when we rode our motorcycles across the United States, people would say, "Well, do you ever come under spiritual warfare?" And I go, "No, we never come under any spiritual warfare, because we're on the attack. We face resistance, but we're not under anything. It's like when Peter was sinking, Jesus goes, "Hey, Peter, how's it going?" He goes, "Oh, pretty good under the circumstances." "Well, what are you doing under there?" And then I could visualize him grab him by the arm, but I've actually made a couple rescues where I've had to grab people by their hair, and I see Jesus, grabbing him by the hair. But the beautiful thing is, I know that there's been times in my life where there's been direct, resistance from the enemy, and the point is, he's a punk. We shouldn't put unnecessary. We shouldn't focus on him, because that's what he wants. He wants attention. But we need to be right, exactly. But we need to be aware, and then I was writing up in my new book I'm working on is 12 Rule is Man Meditations for Men of Grit and Grace, and I'm talking about that morning preparation. Getting ready in the morning to go into battle. And so, like you're saying, you start out that morning in prayer. But there's that scripture verse, "I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." Well, gates really don't attack people. We're meant to attack gates. And so Jesus is building the church. It's the only thing that we know he ever built. We don't know if he was a carpenter or a bricklayer, a mason or what. But he built his church. And so we're the ones that attack the gates. We're the ones on the offensive. Jesus, I remember when I first met a mutual friend of ours, Marianne, that I was speaking someplace, and I was talking about the talk I was giving was exactly that we're to be on the offensive, and that the enemy is on the run. And so I love what you're doing. What you did by taking that long walk was to do the call of David when he attacked Goliath. To respond.
It's not our land.
But I wear the I'm a Benedictine Oblate. I wear the exorcism decade of the Rosary and pray it whenever the sermon's too boring and things like that. When your homily's too boring at church or things, but when you're walking along the street, it's just so easy to slip that down and just to pray the Rosary. But we need to be warriors for Christ. But so much more for us to talk about. But we got to go. How can people find you again?
They can come to our website, which has all the resources I mentioned, Catholicity.com. What would be a $15 book is $1. So you can get 100 free shipping. It'll arrive right away with a hand-signed letter. We treat every single person who comes to us.
Really? Wow.
We use technology to be more personal, not to be less personal. And
beautiful.
So everyone who comes to us, we believe, is sent by Immaculate Mary to help I think it's the destiny of the United States to become the most Catholic nation in the world. And in many ways, it already is. Many of the biggest things happening in the whole world are starting here and growing here.
I'll notice people, commentators on the newscasts, talking. I go, "Oh, that guy's Catholic." You can tell by the language that person is using. That there is. Do you know Father Jason Sharon? Have you met him?
No, I do not.
We need to go, but I'll just tell you briefly. He's the Ukrainian Catholic priest that gave the invocation in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I heard about him.
Yeah. My wife is so tuned in. We were in an airport in Minneapolis on our way to Bismarck, so you're in that small little airport area for the small planes. And she saw this priest walk in, and she says, "Oh, he needs a place to sit. He can join us, because we had a seat between us." And we got to know him, and then I had him on my radio show, and then this event happened in Butler, where he was speaking of the spiritual battle. When Trump turned his head, that was an angel that protected him. And Father Jason, as he's giving the invocation and walking through the crowd because he had other things to do that day, suddenly he's a very soft-spoken man. Suddenly just shouted out, "We need to pray for our president. People are trying to shoot him." So it was as if there was more than one event, and that it was specifically someone going to shoot him. But I was thinking about that your prayers, these prayers that we're all praying, but this very vital prayer walk that you did, and the Eucharistic procession that followed, tremendous spiritual warfare was going on. The Republic, I don't get into politics, but the Republican convention, which I believe was right on the heels or was just before the Eucharistic Congress, They overlap by a day. It was a love fest for Jesus. There's so many people talking not just about God, but about Jesus. And and so I do believe
that is a sign of a shift in what we talked about, the cloud above us. I never finished the point, and I think I should end with this.
Okay.
And I got confirmation from our benefactors. There was this sense in the last few days as we finished the third beam. Like the fourth beam was St. Augustine to Indiana.
Long walk.
The third beam that we had secured some kind of victory, and I felt like every time we delivered the True Cross to Indiana, it was like some major demon that has been over this country was bowed and cast down. And there's certain things that just don't work anymore, the woke stuff, or the Republicans being so open about the faith.
Men in women's
Donald
bathrooms.
Trump, all that kind of thing. It's like the power behind it seems to be gone. It's like reaching back for a weapon that these bad guys are used to.
It's not there.
They're getting there.
We got to go, bud. We got to talk again. I was talking to Cindy about a week ago, my wife, or about 10 days ago, and I said, ooh. And she goes, what? I go, ooh, there's a troubling going on right now. So what do you mean? Is everything okay? I felt a troubling, and I said, it's in the spiritual. It's in the sky. There's a troubling right now. Something's happening. And I got goosebumps just thinking about it, that God, you think about Michael, I think he was fighting the Prince of Persia, right? The demon over Persia. That kind of battle has been taking place, and everybody should drink in the sweetness of the Lord's goodness and continue to pray and continue to do battle. But now we've overrun our show by 2 minutes, so I have to go.
Well, all right. Let's talk about prayer. Let's talk about how to pray next time. I was
gonna say I got an idea. Right. Instead of having leftovers, let's actually get back together again soon, and we'll continue this conversation.
All right. I love you, brother.
Love you too, bud. There's something about you that's always been hidden in my heart. Love you very much. Until next week.
Me too.
Until next week, may the breath of the Holy Spirit aloha you. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to the Bear Woznick Adventure. Find more manly conversation at the Bear Woznick Deep Adventure YouTube channel. Subscribe and ring the bell.